Can you guys think of the last time that going into a season in the Big Ten, certainly Ohio State has not won every Big Ten championship, but certainly since Urban Meyer stepped on campus, they have been considered the best team. And basically, by season's end, even if they didn't win the Big Ten, it was like, okay, they were the best team in the Big Ten. They had to eliminate themselves, basically. And then even before that, do you go back to 2005 in Penn State or 2008 in Penn State, where another team in the Big Ten was better than them? Is this the first time that we can go into a season reasonably thinking that somebody else in the Big Ten is better than them, or even if they're not, that the gap is closer than it's been in almost 20 years?
Well, 2011, the Fickle year, they had all those suspensions. That was an outlier. And then back to that, 2004, they weren't any good at all. So, but after that, they went on this string where whatever it is in the last 18 years, they probably won 10, 12, 13 Big Ten championships, whatever the exact number is. So, you know, I think it's them and Michigan and then everybody else. Well, Penn State is kind of like one, and then 1A probably. I don't want to say that either Ohio State or Michigan's 1A because they're like both number one. But then Penn State is right there, 1B, and then there's nobody else within arm's length of those three, in my opinion. So take it however you want, I guess. But and I think that's, we'll see if USC can sustain some things. I think that having the ability for them to play 3 games on the West Coast every year, or which under that scenario that Tony said is not likely to happen, 1-8-8, you'd only play a maximum of 2 games probably per year in your own time zone. How are they going to ever compete, for this thing? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I do think that those 3 teams are head and shoulders above the rest. So if somebody else crashes that party, it'd be a tremendous job by Wisconsin with Luke Fickell, or Nebraska with Matt Rule in his first season, find some way to do something. I don't see it at Iowa. There's nobody else in the East that's on this level. I mean, Maryland's got the quarterback, but what else do they really have? I don't know. And they're certainly not going to beat all 3 of those other teams. So I don't know. It's I don't know. I think it's the big 3 and the little whatever the rest is, 11.
I'm looking because immediately I went to the 2011 and the 2004 seasons as well in terms of Ohio State not being all that. But in 2004, they were the preseason number 9 team. Michigan was preseason number 8. 2011, they were preseason 18, which was, both Michigan and Penn State were unranked. That in 2011, I didn't look to see, where Michigan State or Wisconsin or any of those were. So even in the bad years, Ohio State was probably was looked at as, if not the favorite, then one of the 2 favorites. And I think this year they're looked at as one of the 2 favorites, but it is a new thing to where the expectation, and you see it from all over the media, national college football media, Big Ten football media, where the expectation is that Michigan is going to win the Big Ten and Ohio State isn't. And I think that's a logical thing based on the last 2 years and the game being in Ann Arbor this year. I wonder what the thought process would be if the game was in Columbus this year, if it would mirror Ohio State being the favorite like they were last year, and even then it's like, I just assumed they were the heavy favorite last year. I think we would remember if Michigan was the favorite last year, because we're talking about it now like it's some kind of odd thing. So I'm guessing there would have been some talk about it last year as well. But yeah, that's the world we're living in right now, and Ohio State fans lose sleep because of it.
Yeah, I believe they were a touchdown favorite going into the game, and I think they were a touchdown favorite when the season started, as projected. before anyone played anything. And that's what the perceived difference between the two teams was. Has anyone ever done any analysis? And I've got the score of, as you guys do, of every Ohio State Michigan game in my head and understand what the records were going into the game and understand where the teams were generally perceived to start the season. Is there a real home field advantage in that game? And you can't just go, okay, Ohio State's record is this at home against Michigan, and Michigan's record is, you got to compare, okay, how good were the teams? The throwaways or the trestle, a lot of the trestle years where, okay, they're going to win the game by 3 touchdowns wherever they play. It doesn't matter. Throw those games away. When you look at there being comparable teams, whether good, marginal, or bad, has home field actually proven to be anything?
I'll go ahead, Steve. You're muted.
You're muted, Steve.
I'm sorry. That's a good question, because to my recollection, in recent years, the better team has ultimately won the game. And, there haven't been many upsets, really, when you stop and think about it. The team that's favored on the point spread, other than Ohio State, maybe the last 2 years they might have been favored. I don't know, but only by a slight amount, not a double digit, type thing. I don't know. And when the better team wins, it doesn't matter where the game's played, So I don't know. I don't know how you look at that, but what do you think, Tony? I think it matters to a point, but when you get into the second half, as we've seen the last 2 games, it comes down to who can dictate what's happening in the trenches. It doesn't matter what the sound of the stadium is, whether it's blowing or snowing. If you can line up and blow the other team off the ball with your offensive line, and then get into the backfield and make plays with your defensive line, you're going to win the game. And Michigan has dominated Ohio State up front, both sides of the ball, in the second half of the last 2 games. And that was that. I mean, game, set, match, good luck to you. That was it. So it wouldn't matter if they played the game on the, anywhere in the world. It came down to execution and who was the more physical team. And Michigan had that in spades.
Yeah, the team that wins the rushing battle wins the game. And like
Typically.
I said, and just I've looked up, because we would write about this every year in terms of like the team with the better yard per carry average generally wins, and almost always, like, generally is not general enough of a broad sweeping generalization. I have a tweet here from November of 2018. The last time Ohio State beat Michigan while being outrushed by the Wolverines was 1994. The team that wins the rushing battle has won the last 18 games. That was in 2018. I don't think anything has changed over the last 4 games. And you can count on perhaps one finger the times that the team that wins has been outrushed in the last 30 years of this game, maybe even the last 40 years going back. And that's a study that, yes, I should have done it by now. Mark, thank you for bringing it up. But summer is over. The college football season is here. This is not June any longer. But that is one where the math is really easy to do on that. And it doesn't matter if if you play the game in a parking lot, at Michigan Stadium, at Ohio Stadium. For one, Michigan Stadium isn't that loud. And for 2, if you're running on Ohio Stadium, running the ball on the Buckeyes in Ohio Stadium, that place gets really quiet. And so it's the best way to take the crowd out of it. And, if you're running the ball and the frustration of the moving chains, and it's the fans get bothered by it, and it's just the frustration aspect of it. If you can run the ball, you can shut anybody up.
Well, Tony, you've disappointed me, because for all the times that I bring up some kind of odd, strange statistic that I would like to have compiled, I think you're down to like 93% of the time that you've delivered that. So your rate has gone down. I've just scanned the last 20 years, or basically since the start of the century. You guys, this is obviously inexact science, to be sure. Here are the years that I believe that these teams are fairly equal: 2001, 2002, 3, 5, 6, 15, 16, 18, 21, 22. The home team's 6-4.
There you go. That'll tell you.
Again, this is
People ask me
inexact.
what this season is going to come down to, and I'm going to say it again. The second half of the Michigan game in Ann Arbor, Michigan, does Ohio State establish the run and stop Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, and not necessarily stop them, but contain them, not allow them to rip off the 20 and 30-yard runs to change field position, not allow them to sustain drives and put it into the red zone where anything can happen. You get the ball in the red zone, now anything can happen. If the ball's at the 50-yard line, Michigan, here you go, guys. Good luck. But when they are able to drive it into the red zone, now anything can happen. So Ohio State has got to line up and consistently contain the run game by Michigan. And that's what it's going to come down to. And that's just, as Tony said, that's just time and memoriam. That's how it is.
Although I thought they did a great job of stopping Blake Corum last year.
Not the year before. Not with Hassan Haskins and Corum the year before. Good Lord.
Boy.
That was thunder and lightning, wasn't it? Wow. On a snowy day, we had thunder and lightning in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
We had our guy John play a simulation over on our Michigan channel, and it was snowing. I don't watch those simulations. I don't care about them. People comment to me about them, and I even forget that we've got to post it. I'm like, yeah, I don't post them. I think they're the stupidest, silliest things imaginable. But I did notice, since he had a premiere going, that okay, yeah, it's snowing in Ann Arbor, and Ohio State was up like 24-8 in the third quarter with the snow coming down.
Did he
Global
hit
warming
reset?
has affected everywhere except Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Probably Champaign.